Mississippi State getting a top 10 win over the previously ranked, and they will be for the rest of the week, number 7 Texas A&M Aggies. Josh Hubbard led the Bulldogs in scoring last night. He had 25 on 10 shots. 25 points on 10 shots, 6 of 10 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, made 10 of his 11 free throws, had 4 assists and 4 steals as well. Harris off the bench gave State 15 on just 10 shots. Again, 5 of 10, 4 of 8 from 3. And only one other Bulldog in double digits. That was Melendez. Did not have an efficient night like the other two. He was 3 of 11 and 1 of 7 from 3. Mississippi State, the stat of the game, though. It's not the 19 Texas A&M turnovers, because sometimes teams just throw the basketball away. They just turn it over, dribble it off their own feet, whatever. 17 of the 19 Texas A&M turnovers were a Mississippi State steal. 17 steals in the game last night is awesome.
That's a lot. Yeah, and that's a game where you look at the box score and you would, just depending on where you look, you might not think State had won the game, right? They got out-rebounded in this game. They didn't shoot particularly well. One of the telltale signs for State this year has been how many guys are in double figures with Hubbard. And like you said, you only had 3, and one of those, Melendez, was on 3 of 11 shooting. He missed a ton of good looks. Kugel only had 2 points. Cam Matthews didn't do much. Keyshawn Murphy only played 20 minutes, but he had 8 and 8, including a ridiculous turnaround fadeaway jumper that reminded me so much of Patrick Ewing. It was crazy.
How do I get him on the floor for 36 minutes instead of 20?
Keep him out of foul trouble.
Man.
Simple as that. I mean, but Nwoke was good in his time too. So, but the steals are obviously what's going to stand out when you force that. And then this is the second game in a row where State's defense has really showed up and held an opponent under 40% shooting. 70 points, usually not enough for State to win this year, but it was in this game. They made Texas A&M's weakness, which is their shooting, and is their offense, they turned it into their kryptonite. And the A&M just couldn't make shots. Could not make shots against State's defense.
And what's incredible is A&M was 11 of 30 inside of the arc. They were 11 of 30 inside of the arc. They didn't
shoot well, period. End of statement. It doesn't matter where you want to put them. Wade Taylor, Hubbard frustrated him the entire game and just forced him into bad shots.
Only 11 points for Wade Taylor on 4 of 14 shooting.
It's going to be tough for A&M to win when Wade Taylor's only got doing that for you. So, really good win. We talked about it yesterday. State needed a signature win, one of these top 10 teams that they've played. They lose to Kentucky, they lose to Alabama, they lose to Florida, but they get the win over Texas A&M. And now they are where Ole Miss was a week ago when Ole Miss beat South Carolina. They are in the tournament. It is simply a question of what seed will they be when we get to Selection Sunday.
And let's look at that real quick and then come back to the game. So Mississippi State's remaining schedule. They are at Oklahoma on Saturday. It's always difficult to go on the road. That is an Oklahoma team, though, that is struggling beyond measure. I mean, again, even though it's in their arena, I have a feeling that you can, if you pounce on them early, then you can kind of coast to a win. There's the Q word is coming up seemingly with their effort, as well as South Carolina's, but that's a conversation for later in the show. At Oklahoma, at Alabama, that'll be tough in the middle of the week next week, but certainly a free shot. I think that game will be when that time comes. Back-to-back home games with LSU in Texas, in which State will be favored for sure, possibly heavily favored against LSU, and then they close up at Arkansas. So a real opportunity to get a handful more wins here.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you look at the metrics and the predictive models, they're going to have State finishing 11-7. Now, the Arkansas game is probably pretty close to 50-50 in terms of, because Arkansas is still on the bubble as far as all that goes. A couple more losses might change that prediction. What State really needs in terms of its metrics is they've won road games, but you think about the road games they've won, right? Ole Miss, they won by 10, but not a huge win, right? South Carolina on the road, they only won by 4, I think. I have to go back and look. Vanderbilt was a close win. Georgia was only a 1-point win. They've won these games, and that's great. They need to go to Oklahoma and win by 12, 13, 14, 15 points, something like that, to just sort of balance out their metrics a little bit and get the sting of that 20-some-odd point loss to Missouri to kind of balance it out a little bit. So the metrics like State right now, they don't love them. And so a couple of good more wins, and it's going to be a situation where You just are what you are. Right now, State is trending towards being a 5. If they were to finish 11-7, they can make a pretty strong case for them to possibly be a 4. If they do the unlikely and win out and win that game at Alabama, then you're definitely talking about a 4 seed. But at the same time with State, you know they've been inconsistent this year. So, the possibility does exist that they could drop one game they're not supposed to drop at this point. So that's something they have to work on. But it appears that they're starting to peak a little bit, starting to play their best basketball as we go into March. These are 2 back-to-back good wins against ranked teams. They need to follow it up, though. I said this on yesterday's show. If you were going to go 1-1 this week, it needed to be lose to A&M, beat Oklahoma. If now that you've beaten A&M and you have that momentum, don't give it away.
Yeah.
Go to Oklahoma, handle your business against a team that is struggling, that's probably about to fire their coach, and get that win and continue the momentum going into next week when you head to Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. So you said the metrics don't quote unquote love Mississippi State right now, and they don't. Why is
They're
that?
in the friend zone.
Is it as simple as that they've got what is now seemingly approaching bad loss territory from the non-conference?
The Butler loss isn't great, and that loss to Missouri at home is a bad loss.
Have not protected their home floor.
You lose by 20, I think it was 26, 27 at home. That the metrics are going to sting you for that one. So it's not a situation where it's like the metrics are saying State should be a 9 or a 10 seed.
Right. Yeah.
It's the difference between being a 5 seed and being a 6 seed right now.
Mm-hmm. And Joe Lunardi has not released his latest bracketology quite yet. At least I haven't seen it. So I imagine that win last night will move them up a seed line. I think it will.
Probably.
And
it depends on what, you as we talked about yesterday, it depends on what else happens around the world of college basketball tonight.
Somebody on the text line says that might have been Hubbard's most complete game of his career with what he did defensively and offensively.
Really good game from Josh Hubbard. And when State needed him in the second half, he was there, did a great job on the defensive end. You mentioned, 25 points. We've seen that from Hubbard. Maybe not on that efficient of a shooting night, but we've seen 25-point games from him. But 4 steals is really big for Josh Hubbard. And just led the team last night the way they need him to. So really good game from him. He didn't play his best game at Ole Miss, but he got to the line. He got into double digits. This last stretch, starting with that Alabama loss, he seems to finally be getting into real Josh Hubbard form.
JC Tupelo says, I noticed Jan sat Murphy after the 10-second violation. Looks like he lit into him on the bench and never really let him back in.
Yeah, I think there was some, and maybe we'll ask him about it. He's going to be on tonight with us on Thunder and Lightning Live at 6:20. But he did do that. But at the same time, my guess is if Nwoko had not been playing well, he would have made a move. But State was playing well and extending the lead. Why make a change?
Yeah.
So
Memphis win stands out. Don't forget. Yep, that's a
win. That's a good road win. I mean, that Memphis team, they lost this past weekend to Wichita State. Prior to that, they had gone off on a good win. Another good win for State is SMU. Last time I checked, I think they were going into the weekend. They were 19-5 on the season. That's another quad 1 true road win against a Power 5 or Power 4 team, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so
SMU is currently 40 in the net. They're 19-6, so they dropped whatever game they played this weekend. But that's a good win for State.
That's quad 1, right?
Yeah, it's quad 1. It's a true road win. State has quad 1 road wins over the current number 24, number 39, number 40, number 42, and number 49. Those are all quad 1 wins for State.
It's a good resume.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's why we're talking about seeding now as opposed to do they win enough games to get in.
Right.
Josh asking if Haydad thinks Hubbard will come back next season.
Where would he go?
Yeah, that's the thing about Hubbard. Unfortunately for him, and what's great about NIL, by the way,
he'll make plenty of money.
He's going to make a lot of money, and he'll stay in school.
Yeah,
his size will work against him forever.
He's not an NBA guy. He's 5 foot. If he was 6'3", he'd already be gone. But at 5'10", you probably got a 4-year player.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing for Mississippi State. And like I said, his NIL deal is such that he'll make a ton of money before he heads out. And he's a guy who, his size, if he wants to go play in Europe, he can, with his shooting ability, can make a ton of money.